the last couple of days, we've had more leaks from our newest, our bestest, our leaky fruit vendor, the one and only Tech Icarus, John Prosser. He's here to tell us a few more things about what Apple has in store. He's got some leaks. What do we know? Officially, nothing, but there are leaks aplenty, and we should give them the attention they deserve. We have word that there's going to be a smaller notch on upcoming iPhones, maybe, and how that's going to happen. Possibly some of Apple's most important professional programs could be coming to the iPad finally, and rumors abound about new AirPods, the AirPods X, the AirPods StudioPods, whatever, might be on the way. If Apple is going to release a studio-grade headphone, what do they have to do to get them to the quality level necessary to actually deserve the name? Let's jump in and discuss. Now, I've not really ever been a huge notch hater, not like some other people, but I know there are many of them out there. I don't blame you. It's okay. In some ways, the notch has become the design element that differentiates the iPhone from other phones that basically all look the same. Of course, that doesn't mean it's not a huge design compromise that many, myself included, still don't believe Steve Jobs would have ever allowed to happen, but yet it persists, possibly in a smaller form. Many have resigned themselves to coexist with the notch over the past few years, some claiming that it's a worthy compromise for the convenience of Face ID. Others have refused to buy another iPhone until the notch is gone. I fall somewhere in between. While I believe that Face ID is the best, most secure, most fluid security option that's out there on any other smartphone anywhere, the notch has been, well, a pain in the ass sometimes. For example, it's been a long time since I watched full screen video on an iPhone. So long that I didn't even realize it until I went back to using a Galaxy Note 9 this past week and got to see what video looked like when it filled the whole screen without any kind of chunks taken out of it. It was, how shall we say, pleasant. But regardless, the notch is what we've got, and we just have to take it. But the word on the street is that maybe not. It won't be as big. We could take it smaller. Mr. Prosser tweeted out a couple of schematics of what the smaller version of the notch might look like, where the speaker has been moved out of the middle of the notch and into sort of more the bezel area of the phone. The result is a notch that's about a ½ inch or so smaller than the current notch. It makes me wonder why they didn't go with that design in the first place, but then again, I'm sure there are some reasons why. There's always a reason. If you know the reason, I'm sure you'll tell me about it down in the comments below, won't you? Regardless, a smaller notch will be a nice change. If it isn't the all-screen iPhone we've wanted since the notch was foisted on us with the iPhone 10. Baby steps, people. Baby steps. What about you? Does this potential news excite you? A smaller notch? Or is a notch by any other name still a notch? Let me know. Meanwhile, on the software side of Appletown, we have rumors that coding language inside of iOS 14 may open up the door for Apple professional applications like Final Cut Pro and maybe even Logic Pro to come to the iPad finally. This has been the hottest debate ever since the iPad was introduced. Would it someday overtake the MacBook as Apple's mobile computing platform? In the early days, the iPad was really nothing much more than a larger iPhone that didn't make phone calls, but in the ensuing years, we've seen the iPad slowly inch its way towards some kind of parity with Apple's laptop offerings. Not quite, but close. The processors inside the iPads are more than powerful enough to do pretty much anything the average user could want, and they've proven themselves to be competent at video editing, audio, some graphic design type stuff. There are tons of people who use the iPad as their only computing device. And while the elegance of that solution is very attractive, the uncanny valley for iPads has always been its inability to run professional programs. There have been half solutions over the years, the mobile versions of programs and that kind of thing, but only recently have we seen versions of Photoshop with full features and that kind of thing come to the iPad and sort of start to bridge that gap. Apple seems to be admitting that while the iPad is a great handheld device to have full utility it needs to have, a keyboard and some kind of trackpad or mouse technology or something like that. This is a major switch for Apple, by the way. The new iPad Magic Keyboard that's coming out pretty soon is a super cool looking thing. But it's also a capitulation on Apple's part. They are finally admitting defeat on the keyboard front and creating an in-house keyboard that looks to rival the quality of Apple's actual hardware everywhere else and not some icky-feeling, cloth-covered, yucky whatever that smart keyboard thing is. Yes, the new keyboard is pricey at $350, and news just broke that it makes the iPad heavier than the MacBook Air, but still, that thing is sexy. So is it possible that the iPad is poised to take over the reins from the MacBook? It's plenty powerful, as we've said. It's gaining utility every year. If the addition of programs like Final Cut and Logic Pro are on the horizon, it could be that people will someday have a choice when it comes to what kind of mobile device they want to work on. I can't see it replacing the MacBook Pros anytime soon. They're just a whole different thing, but it could be in the position to replace lower-end models of the laptops like the MacBook Air. Video editing is one of the most demanding processes in all of computing land, and I know plenty of people who happily edit on iPads with no slowdown in their process, and that is not the case when trying to edit with a MacBook Air. In fact, I'd much rather edit on an iPad than I would if I only had a MacBook Air. While you can do the job on either machine, no one will tell you that the MacBook Air is a dream to edit video on. That's not its purpose. It's meant to be an ultra-portable, light computing machine that fits inside a minimal envelope. Meanwhile, the iPad and its A-series chips have been shown to be beasts in heavier workloads. The only thing that's held some pros back from using an iPad in their daily workflow is the lack of professional software support. Maybe that's changing? If so, we might be looking into the future of Apple's hardware lineup. Or not. I don't know. Would you use an iPad every day if it ran the programs that you need to use to do your job? Finally, in another tidbit from the Prosser, rumor has it that the next version of the AirPods is ready to hit the streets, likely in May, which is just a week and a half from now, but there's no official confirmation of that. That leaves me with a question. Is the new product the lower-cost AirPods X or whatever they're going to be called that have been discussed in recent weeks, or will it be the long-rumored StudioPods, Apple's high-end audio offering, if there's a such thing? That lesser model, the AirPod X whatever, is rumored to be a cheaper version of the already released AirPods, while the StudioPods are rumored to be Apple's end-all, be-all, audiophile, professional, maybe, I don't know, solution for audio. They're supposed to be good. But will they be for the studio? That's really a question, and Apple has always been one to play fast and loose with naming conventions if they think the name will help sell a product. And StudioPods would certainly fit that bill, even if they aren't purpose-made for professional audio applications. More than likely, these over-the-ear AirPods will compete with the Bose 700s, the Sony M1000X series, for the title of Best Expensive Noise-Canceling Headphone That Sounds Pretty Good. I hope that's not the case, though. I hope that's not the case. Both the AirPods and the AirPods Pro have surprised me with how good they sound and how well they perform, all considered within a price range where they exist, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yada yada yada. Even the failed HomePod sounds pretty good and might have been more successful if Apple hadn't hobbled it by tying it so closely to Apple services and making it a pain in the rear end to use. There's problems with the HomePod, but we're not talking about that. If Apple can create a set of over-the-ear AirPods that can compete with the Bose and the Sonys, but also offer perhaps professional audio features, that would be something I don't think has really been done before. What would they have to do in order to do that? Well, I'm going to do a longer video on this where I break out everything that I think should be going on, but in short, they'd have to create a set of premium wireless headphones with all the features of the industry leaders like Sony and Bose, including touch control, top-of-the-line noise canceling, good sound, etc., etc. Then they'd have to be comfortable, they'd have to be stylish, they'd have to look good on an airplane, those kinds of things. They'd have to come in at least white and black, because not too many people really want to wear white over-the-ear headphones in my experience. And most importantly to me, if they're going to be called StudioPods, they have to earn the name. They would also have to support wired capabilities that would actually make them useful for audio professionals. Bluetooth headphones are great. They're convenient. They're all that kind of thing. That's fine. But the simple fact is, science tells us that Bluetooth can't recreate the bandwidth necessary to truly be a professional/audiophile solution. It just can't do it. Not yet, at least. If Apple could thread the needle and create amazing noise-canceling headphones that can also stand their ground as wired headphones, then the StudioPods could become the first headphone that the more discerning listener can use for more than just casual listening. Imagine using a product for more than one thing. Amazing. It remains to be seen. We don't know if we're ever going to see these StudioPods, but if they do arrive, with a feature set like the one I described, then Apple will have successfully bridged the gap between consumer and professional. What kind of madness is this? It's not likely, but a guy can dream, right? What would you want to see out of the next AirPods, whatever they might be? Tell me down in the comments below. This has been a jam-packed Monday edition of Leaks and Rumors that I then thought about as if they were real things. So hit me down in the comments below. Thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. My name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.